You were not meant to be a slave to the grind. You were not meant to trade your life force for money. You can escape gravity. You can unlock your life. You got this. Let's go.
Hello and welcome to Unlock Your Life. I'm your host, Jennings Smith. Guys, I've got a great guest. This guy, his name is Marx Acosta. One of my close friends, a fellow entrepreneur, had him on his podcast, and he connected me via text and said, hey, you got to hear this guy's story. You've got to have him on your show. I got his bio. I've talked to him for a few minutes and heard his story a little bit, but we're going to hear him tell his own story. But what I immediately noticed about his bio was he talks about some of the things that have not gone so well. Failed fifth grade, voted least likely to succeed in high school, started a business, failed, got fired at 28, became a millionaire and a decamillionaire, then broke 5 years later. It's changed the paradigm of what the work was, and now coaches people on doubling their income and doubling their time off. So he coaches others by accident on how to double their income, double their time off. He talks about having a 100% success rate, so I'm sure we're going to get into that. But Marx, welcome to the show, dude. I appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, Jenny. Thanks for having me. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, so tell me about yourself. I mean, immigrated from Venezuela at 7 years old and, thrown into the American life. How was that? What was that like?
It's actually pretty interesting. So my mom ended up being a lesbian who was addicted to drugs at one point, still a lesbian, no longer a drug addict. My dad was a mobster. He's now deceased. And so 1977, you land at Santa Monica, California, right? It's the California dream. Spoke no English. In fact, the first day of school, my mom picked me up and said, tell your teacher this. And she told me in Spanish, dile tu maestra esto. And it was, I'm going to the beach. So I get up in front of the class and she goes, you have something to say today? I said, sí. She goes, what? I said, I'm going to the beach. And they all laughed. I was like, why are they laughing? Went to the car, told my mom. She goes, what'd you say? She goes, oh, no, beach, not bitch, beach. I said, well, how do I know? But it was interesting, right? Didn't know any American euphemisms, any sayings. You voted less likely to succeed in high school. But it's pretty interesting and pretty fun. I am an American by values, but not by birth. And I think that's a pretty cool thing, right? Understanding what America really is all about. And anybody involved in real estate understands that too, because you want to build residual income, you want to build wealth, you want to build communities, you want to give great support to those who want new residences. So I think real estate and American dream are sort of hand by hand, right?
I was in Europe last summer or fall or whatever, and we were in Italy. It's like the trip you take your wife to Italy, and it was great. Loved it.
Awesome.
But something that I noticed that was pretty sad was everybody there, they were tied to the service industry. They were driving cabs. They were working in restaurants. And over they talked about how little opportunity there actually is in Italy, right? To start a business, like to go through the process. And then there's a lot of jealousy and there's a lot of people trying to hold you back. And it's almost like the business owners are this elite class and nobody else gets in there without the right connections and corruption. And it made me grateful. I mean, dude, you can start an LLC in America in about 15 minutes, and you're in business. Like, it's not a difficult thing. And you take that for granted, but not every country's like that.
This is one of the reasons why immigrants who come here legally, and some illegally, but mainly legally, are more likely to succeed financially than native-born Americans. Because the law of contrast, right? So, when you live in Venezuela and you come to the U.S., if you're aware of the lack of opportunity in a country like Venezuela or even Italy or even Paris, right, or Spain, you name it, and you come to America, despite our shortcomings and our shortfalls and our issues and our political divide, it still has more opportunity. Some cases difficult, but not impossible. And so when they see that, they're like, oh my gosh, I can do this, I can do that, and they move forward, right? Whereas here, we're sometimes a bit too complacent.
Yeah. I mean, my dad put it as these people didn't crawl out of communist Vietnam, make it to America to fail, right? They're going to win. If they can make it through out of that and they see the opportunity and the freedom and the rights, the religious freedoms, all that, they're going to do whatever it takes to make a better life. They're not going to come here and just exist on welfare or whatever.
Listen, when you wake up in the morning and your challenge is what color hair you should have or what pronoun you should use, you're missing the boat, right? Because there are people out there who are going to eat your lunch for breakfast financially. And it's really a mindset, isn't it, Jennings? It's a matter of, what do I believe about myself, those around me, and the world around me? When I lost my fortune, the first and only time, it took me 2 years to stop sucking my thumb. And, was I lucky? Am I going to do this again? Sort of rocking myself into a stupor. And it was my wife's comment that if what you're doing isn't working, why don't you do the opposite? I took that literally. That really allowed me to reevaluate, like, what the frick was I thinking? Like, what was I doing? What was I not doing to succeed? And what I had done in the past to succeed. So I looked at all these principles that I've been keeping journals since I was age 21, and here's number 38. And I started, looking for principles and rules and formulas that gave me asymmetric return. And apply. If I didn't get asymmetric return, I would not use it. And if it did give me asymmetric return, I would keep it. And so we went from broke to 20 million plus, and building a company. I rebuilt it differently. Didn't go to the office. Didn't wear a suit. I did everything the way I wanted to by applying certain principles. This is why you'll see successful people. And, let's name the famous ones, right? Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Warren Buffett, the deceased Steve Jobs. They don't have many things in common other than they do things their way, and you can find common principles and common formulas that they apply. Not all the same, but there are some similarities. And that's what success really is about, both financially and spiritually and familial, right? Because if you want to have a relationship with your husband or your wife, you have to apply certain principles. Same thing financially, same thing health-wise, same thing whatever. And that's the biggest challenge, right? If somebody's in real estate now and their mental thermostat is X number of income per year, and they can't seem to break that, it's not the lack of know-how or the lack of effort. It's the challenge with their own mindset. It's what they believe about themselves, the world around them, and those around them. So if you think interest rates are problematic, guess what? They're going to be problematic. If you think they're not problematic but opportunistic, guess what? They're going to be opportunistic, right? It's all really what you think. I would digress, but that's kind of, we just bought 2 units. No. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good thing to touch on because it's definitely on the top of most real estate people's mind. It's on the top of my mind. And I would say, even though I'm a mindset guy, I'm still a human being, right? And I would say every time I hear that Jerome Powell's raised rates, I'm like, damn it. I wish he would stop. I wish he would stop changing the landscape. And yet we all know that out of chaos is born opportunity, right? And so
right?
Yeah. So talk to me about that, like viewing what you believe is a problem versus an opportunity.
I think, the Chinese symbol, I think it is opportunity and problems are all interwound, right? Crisis and opportunity, I think is actually what it is. I don't see the interest rates, honestly, so we're going to talk about real estate, as a problem. I see it as a benefit. And the question is, what position are you in and what do you want? We just bought 2 units in Utah, paid cash for them. I think 600 grand was the total outlay for them. My cap is 7 points. That's okay for me. If I got to put $600,000, I'm okay with a 7 cap. But it doesn't mean that somebody that didn't have the money couldn't have bought it differently, right? So it depends on what you're looking for. I think complaining about the interest rate is like complaining about the sea when you're in a boat. It's going to do what it's going to do. Your job is to maneuver that boat depending on that sea. How do you set the sail? Which direction do you go? So, and we can do the metaphor in any area you want. It's much more pleasant to go, then be the facts. How do I take advantage of it? Than wishing for the facts to be different. That's when people get into trouble. When I coach, so I built the company back up, right? Started making a ton of money again. Then went to the office, built it differently, built it very covertly, which, we could talk about how to do that. And haven't gone to an office, been at home. And then we sold it a couple of years ago. But I also got involved in a bunch of other business stuff, but I did it very, money sometimes is better when it's invisible, right? Money looks better when it's invisible sometimes. So instead of driving the Ferraris and Lamborghinis or whatever, I would suggest you shy away from that. Unless you're a big collector of those cars, then I think it's great, right? But otherwise, we sort of built it on the side. And when I started coaching guys and gals by accident, it took me 12 months to figure out that the biggest issue they had was a change in mindset, what they believed had to be changed. There's 2 things we should be very careful about when we want to double income, double time off: the void and the mental thermostat. Those are the 2 dangers. Those are the devils, if you would. The void is, hey, now I'm making more money. I have more time off. Now what do I do, right? And, idle hands are devil's workshop, right? So we have to ensure that we have things to look forward to with that free time that we want to do. Not so easy, by the way. People think, oh, if I had more time, I'd do more things. No, you wouldn't. You don't know how to do it yet, right? You haven't taught yourself how to do it. So we got to fill that void before it even becomes an issue, which is why we asked him to take 150 days off the year, schedule it, go do it, no matter what. Before you start to double your income, let's get you on the calendar. It takes a day. On the calendar, 150 days off a year, where you're going to go, what you're going to do. Prepay for it, pre-commit it, non-negotiable. You can't change it unless you need to move it from one week to the other because you have something going on. I got it, but you cannot subtract it. And then mental thermostat. You will only have the income in relation to what you believe you're worth. It's like a thermostat. If you sit at 70, it goes 72, AC comes down, it kicks in. If you're, 70 and it gets cold, the heater kicks in. But no matter what it is, it's going to either turn on the AC or turn on the heater to keep it there. Our job is to raise that thermostat to whatever income of level we want, where both the unconscious mind and the conscious mind coincide and are congruent in wanting that. Because if it's not, you will sabotage yourself. And so those are the two big pillars that cause us issues. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, and that's caused me issues, and I want to ask about it because I don't know how to do that, and I'm sure there are people that are listening that don't know how to do that because I'm introspective on when I go on vacation, right? And when I go on vacation, 5-6 days, that's plenty. That's more than enough. If I'm on vacation for more than a week, if I'm out for a week or two, I actually find myself getting very anxious and also depressed when I come back. I battle severe depression for a day or two of like, oh, I really got behind, and I'm kind of being vulnerable here with you and the audience. But I'm sure a lot of people feel that way. So it's like if you're saying, hey, block of 150 days, that sounds insane to me.
I told you that void and mental thermostat are the two things that are going to come at you. And it's to program what you think is available to you. So let me give you an example of how to do that. And the reason, by the way, is that you're focusing on the wrong thing in your business. Money is never what you should focus on, ever. Money is simply a scoreboard after having succeeded at something, right? You're playing basketball, you make the shot, bing, the scoreboard goes, there's $1, right? Football, you score, bing, there's this 5 points or 3 points, whatever it is, right? Hockey, you name it, right? In MMA, the tap out, whatever. It's the end result of something. So guess what you cannot control? You cannot control the end result. You can't go in the game and go hit the button to change the scoreboard. All you can do is make the goal, the score, whatever sport we're playing. It's the game that's a lot of fun. But if you're playing soccer, or as the rest of the world would call it, football, how much time do you really spend playing the game versus practicing and resting and getting ready to play the game? What do you think?
Probably, at least 5 or maybe 10 to 1.
Yeah, it's usually 80-20, right? We'll call it the 80-20 principle. 80% of the time, you're not playing. 20% of the time, you're playing.
Okay.
But the other 80% of the time is really what makes the 20% really highly effective. So we have to understand and separate playing the game from doing everything else so we can play the game well. The difference between you and somebody else, one of my clients is worth $1 billion. He's engaged in real estate, has 14,000 doors. And, he residual income is great. He putzes around, does most of the things. His income per hour is greater than your income per hour. You say, what's the difference? Well, he has 14,000 doors. I don't. I'm assuming you don't, but if you do, I apologize for making that statement.
I don't.
Okay. And you go, well, what's the difference? Well, the difference is that his hour of work has more value. He's input more than you have. And well, how did he get there? Well, he took CCIM 101, 102, 103, 104. He became a broker, the developer. He's got all this expertise and this knowledge that when he shows up, he's got all this 80% in the background to play with the 20%. Most of my clients, me included, we all make more money when we're traveling than when we're actually playing the game. Why is that? Well, where do your best ideas come from? When you're relaxed. Where does your problem solving come from? When you're relaxed. You're addicted to the stress that you think input equals output, and therefore if no input, no output. But the real estate game isn't that. The real estate game is we want the output after having done the input once, but unless we're flipping. Even then we should systematize it. But if we have residual income, I get checks every month. So do you, I'm assuming, right? If you have rental properties. And aren't those the best on the planet? They are to me. right? They are to me. Now, you can be a flipper. I mean, I'm not judging anybody else's component, but whatever you believe to be true is going to happen to be true. And I know we keep our podcast short, so I'm kind of going a little bit hyperspeed. But do you remember, you're probably too young, but maybe you have seen The Last Crusade, Indiana Jones?
Yeah, I've seen it. Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. Remember, he's figuring out these clues to get to the cup of Christ, right? To get to the cup. And at one point, he's standing between one cliff and another, and there's no bridge. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And it talks about faith. So he reads it, he goes, what is it? And he goes, all right. And he takes a step and he's, into nothingness. But sure enough, he doesn't fall because there was a bridge, but it was a mirage. And so he takes the sand, throws it on there. The rest of the folks can see the bridge because there's sand on it. And they go, I got it now. That is what success really is like. You're always standing at that precipice and you have to take a step with faith. Because remember, faith is taking action when there's no evidence that it's going to work. And then going, oh, it worked. So you're still stuck, meaning, your metaphor is still stuck in input equals output. That has to be changed. How do we change that? Well, that's kind of a longer conversation. But it's changing the mindset, what you believe and hold to be true. So Indiana Jones held to be true that if he took a step from that cliff to the other, he was going to make it okay, right? Otherwise, he wouldn't have taken a step. He held it to be true. So when interest rates are high, you hold to be true that that's bad for you, and therefore you become non-active. Rather than holding to be true, hey, that's great because it's going to create opportunities for me in some form or another, right? I can get discounted properties. I can assume subject twos. I can pivot and do, a different kind of real estate. I can, generate cash. I can get me some money that's sitting there and I can buy properties cash. I mean, there's 1,000 things that we can come up with that allows us to take advantage of the environment that's created. But if we dictate, well, that's bad, then we only see the bad. We have cognitive bias, confirmation bias. And, I'm not answering your question of how you do it, but it's really changing it. And there's we can use psychosensory therapy, we can use experiential therapy, we can do all kinds of stuff to change that belief. Or you could decide to change it for yourself like that by taking a leap of faith and saying, what if a high interest rate is better? I first got in real estate. I was 21 years old. I bought a property subject to 2. They were in arrears. I took a subject to. I flipped the grand deed for $10,000 by putting it down in the penny saver. I made $10,000 at age 21 by flipping a property because the interest rates were 10, 11, 12%. And the family that owned it got into arrears. So I took an opportunity, right? Got them out of the deal, put a new buyer in there. They make the mortgage payment. It was good. Then I bought a building, the 18-unit building in the Drug Street in Van Nuys, California. Did the same thing, flipped it for $60,000. And I bought 2 properties in San Diego, or 2 properties on 3 lots. Did the exact same thing. So interest rates were high, but I found an opportunity to figure it out.
It's funny you say this because I just bought a couple single-family homes last week, and people that listen to my podcast know I'm not a huge fan of single-family homes because it's just hard to manage and scale that. But my roots were I would buy trailers. How I started was buy trailers, buy little crappy houses, and I would sell them contract for deed, owner finance. You put some money down, and so I'm still willing to do that because then I don't have to property manage and maintain the home in Ohio or Indiana, wherever it is. And I have found, holy crap, man, there are tons, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of $30,000, $40,000 houses all over the country, probably thousands of them. And that wasn't the case, not too long ago. And so I bought one for $30K. I closed on it 2 days ago. And the next day I sold it for $70,000, $10,000 down, $1,600 a month for 3 years. So, at 0% interest, I gave the guy 0% interest because I'm already doubling my money. And so seeing those opportunities because of the way the rates are, and my other deal I did, I sold it at 12% mortgage. I mean, it used to be like insane, but dude, a regular mortgage now is 8% or 8.5%. So it's not that big of a spread, but you can offer somebody that couldn't get a financial, like a regular bank loan. But man, if a guy puts down $10,000 on a house that I've got 30 in, I'm pretty well insulated on my risk.
You're great.
And I don't have debt over it.
And you
Yeah.
sold it for 70. So you instantly already created a better listing for the price and the comp. Listen, and that's exactly right. That's the mindset, is how do you pivot, right? If any sport we play, because look, we're athletes of the mind. That's what we are, right? Anybody in real estate or any kind of business, you're involved. Not an employee, right? Because I understand it's a different mentality. But anybody who's an entrepreneur, whether in real estate or owns a business online, I don't care. You're an athlete of the mind. And when we play a physical sports, we have to adapt to the opposing team or the opposing person, and we have to move on the moves they give us. Well,
Mm-hmm.
when we're playing the real estate game, the opposing is, Powell and the interest rates and the market and the economy and, the policies, you name it, right? It's all coming after us. And our job is, how do we pivot? How do we utilize that to our advantage? And, when real estate is good, any dummy can make money, right? Come on. You just buy something, hold it 3 months later, you sell, you make money. So I don't really much give those folks credit. It's when the economy is not easy and people are making money, those are the ones, like your listeners, who are just amazing, right? And how do you get better in your hourly rate is the exact same thing. That my client shows up to an hour. He's got all of this information that he has in the past that you are now accumulating. So back to your mental thermostat in the void. We cannot focus on money. We got to focus on, what do we love? Now, other than real estate, do you have something you love, or is that it?
Oh, no. I mean, I love God, my Lord and Savior,
Right.
Jesus Christ. I love my family, my wife, my kids. I love my town. I love my community. I mean, my
But yet
family's
you're
been here a
depressed
long
when you go
time.
on vacation, where you can read the Bible more, pray more, meditate more, hang out with your family more, but you become depressed. So I'm calling BS in the sense
Okay.
that you say that,
Yeah.
and that's what you want it to be, but your brain is like, nope. We are afraid that if we don't do this, all this will go away. So we have to find out, how do we ensure that you feel productive and live your values? That's the key, right? Feel productive, live your values. So when you're out and about, when I'm on vacation, I'm very present. I've actually been a disciple of David Allen, Getting Things Done, since I was 31 years old. And that's been a big saver for me. I highly recommended the book, Getting Things Done by David Allen. He's a friend. And he's a mentor when it comes to productivity. Nothing is better. I'm also a dear friend with Richard Koch, the 80-20 Principle, one of my favorite humans on the planet. Highly recommend you guys read all his books, Richard Koch's books, and David Allen's books. So I'm always present, right? So, which is, I think, one of your challenges, is that you're letting your brain run you versus you run your brain. But back to how we solve this issue. You don't have, and let me phrase it, I don't want to say you don't have. When people go on vacation, if they aren't present on vacation, it's, my experience shows, they don't have compelling goals. They are running the same track over and over again. And compelling goals is not just one little thing, right, Jennings? It's everything. What are the goals for your beautiful 4 children, for your lovely wife, for your church, your community, God, for you, for your health, for your fitness, for your business? You're more likely to go on vacation. And if you have one of your projects or goals going, how do I double my income and double my time off? You're going to enjoy vacation more, because you're going to write things down. You're going to have ideas. You're going to come up with new ways of doing things. You're going to realize, I don't like management, but how do I make that more effective? Maybe I create a community management group of my listeners. Maybe we all could, you start to brainstorm. And if 90% of that doesn't get done, and it's just all captured on paper, but 10% changes something in your life for the better, wasn't it exciting to go on vacation?
Yeah. So if I'm drawing it back to this sports analogy, it's like the 150 days off, that's a time of sharpening the saw. That's the time of practicing, kicking penalty kicks, doing your wind sprints, training your mind to solve these issues that you've been, struggling with.
Yeah, look, we were just on a 7-day cruise, my beautiful wife and I, and our 3 kids and my daughter's fiance, right? So 7 of us, six of us. And 7 days, right? And I got to spend time with them. My son, my oldest, read, the Morgan biography. It's an 800-page book. We were all super happy. And I'd sit there, and I'm in the ocean, and I think it's like St. Martin, and I was like, I had a great idea. Went up, captured my idea, implementing it, life-changing for me. Why? Because you have 3 parts of your brain, right? We'll get into a little. You have the reptilian brain: fight, flight, freeze, fornicate, feed. The 5 Fs. Fight, flight, freeze, fornicate, feed, right? The caveman. People have panic attacks or anxiety or depression. That's the caveman. That's what happens, right? It sees danger, Will Robertson. It comes out, right? Fight, freeze, fornicate, feed, or fight, flight. So that's the caveman. Then you've got Rodin, the thinker, the guy with a fist on his chin thinking. That's the one you think you're most communicated with. Then you have the librarian. And the librarian organizes everything and puts everything in its place. So whenever the librarian's always working, but it works best when the caveman and Rodin, the thinking brain, are sleeping. The librarian can do its best job. When the caveman's active, librarian's trying to work, but the thinker has been knocked out. It's been hitting over the head, right? So when you come back and you feel your depressions, caveman went, bam, knocked out your thinking brain, and it's just active doing its thing, and your thinking brain's like, right, until he wakes up, go, whoa, we got to put some, gives him some Scooby snacks and puts, the caveman to sleep, not until you get out of your depression. But the librarian is the one that has all the keys. So the thinking brain goes, Jennings, how do I do X? Why would this be better? And that's a thinking brain, tries to figure it out. Then the thinking brain goes, you know what? I don't have the answer. Hey, librarian, do me a favor. Give me the answer to this question. And then librarian goes, okay, well, let me go work. And then the caveman is sleeping, and she says to the thinking brain, go hang out at the beach. Just go relax. Just go do mundane things. Go watch TV. Go watch a sporting event. Go on vacation. Let me do my thing. And the librarian goes, if I take this memory and this idea and this thing we read from the book, and she looks all over the place and comes back and goes, if we do it in this sequence, this will be the answer. Puts it in a manila envelope, walks out of the library, knocks on the thinking brain and goes, here. And you go, I've got it. That all happens unconsciously. You cannot get that to happen when the caveman is active or the thinking brain is thinking, because the librarian can't do her job or his job. So taking 150 days off is a hack to double income, double time off, because we start to ask questions to the subconscious mind, aka the librarian, on how to solve it, how to get what we want, how to achieve the goals that we've tried to achieve, we haven't been able to solve. And relaxing, the more we relax, the more we soothe the caveman or cavewoman, and they're yummy, sitting under the tree, looking at the butterflies, eating a popsicle, right? They're chill. Right? The thinking brain can go relax and also pose questions. So working less earns us more. Working more earns us less. If hard work was the key to success, ditch diggers would be billionaires. It's not. It's solving problems creatively. And we cannot solve problems creatively unless we are relaxed in an environment that's conducive to that. This is why we make fun of presidents, Republican, Democrat, not putting any political connotation on taking vacations, but they need to, or they should. They should go play golf. They should go relax. They should do things that allows their brain to process information. And whatever aisle you're on, Republican, Democrat, Independent, doesn't matter.
Wow, that's super powerful. And I mean, I've said that many times on this podcast, like hard work is not the key to success. We see that. We know that those that can leverage opportunity, leverage time, leverage money, leverage ideas, leverage other people, and become more valuable, this is how they get compensated in a asymmetrical way, like you mentioned in the beginning. But you're giving us specific tactics on how do I not think deeply, but I guess how do I access my librarian? How do I access
how
my
do you think? Most people, Jennings, most people don't think, they remember. Remembering isn't thinking. When you're thinking, you're trying to access memories. Oh, gee, how did I solve that? Okay, that's not thinking. Thinking is solving a problem or creating something new. That's not remembering. You might have memories that come in the folder that are part of the solution or part of the process, but remembering isn't thinking. Thinking is on purpose. And thinking involves both posing a question to yourself, dialoguing through it, and then having that Archimedes moment. Eureka, I found it. Remember Archimedes? He was given by the king. The king had commissioned a gold crown. And when he gets a gold crown, it's beautiful, but he goes, but how do I know it's solid gold without cutting into it? So he went to Archimedes and said, hey, you got to figure this out without messing up the crown. And he racked his brain, he used a thinking brain, and he couldn't come up with the answer. He's like, this is dumb. I'm never going to solve this. And then he fills a bath and then lays on the bath, and the water overfills the bath. And he has a moment, and it's called Eureka! I found it. That's where the Eureka came from. And he runs naked down the street, so the story tells, to tell the king. He goes, all you have to do is put the same amount of gold you gave him for the crown and make sure it weighs him, submerge it in water, and the same equal amount of weight in water will be the weight that gets expelled from the little receptacle. And they did, and he had been cheated. It was not all gold, so they killed the guy that did the crown, whatever have you. But he had this moment of eureka when he was relaxed. Do you ever do martial art? Do you ever do any sports?
I played basketball when I was a kid, and then I work out and run, walk. So okay. I run and walk every day, and I work out about 3 times a week.
Wonderful. So I want you to try to play basketball fully stiff. Just you'll suck. It's impossible. You have to be relaxed, don't you, to play basketball? You have to be relaxed to play any sport. I call it relaxed intensity. Relax and then explosive, right? You can't run if your muscles that aren't relaxed aren't supposed to be relaxed. Why is business any different? Why are we holding on white-knuckled, butt clenched to our seat, right? Sucking up upholstery every day rather than just chilling and relaxing? Yeah, you get the visual, right? And so
let me ask you this. How do we soothe the caveman? How do we ask the right question? And then how do we allow the librarian? Can you give us some tactics on how do you engage with what you just talked about?
Okay, there's many ways to skin this cat, right? So Ray Dalio, you know who Ray Dalio is, right? The most successful. Okay. He says meditation does it for him. Meditation soothes the caveman, gets to ask questions, and the librarian gets to work. So if you like to meditate, meditate. One of my mentors prayed for 3 hours every Sunday on his knees and asks God to help him figure the solutions out. He wanted to grow his business. He was in real estate too, by the way. Became very wealthy, grew most of Singapore. So prayer also works, but in relaxed prayer. Using Getting Things Done by David Allen, this ability to be appropriately engaged and have nothing on your mind except for the thing that's on your mind is also a beneficial way to do it. Playing sports, right? Doing jujitsu or basketball or soccer, football, tennis, paddle, pickleball, whatever. When you're playing sports, the caveman is satisfied because you're being active. The thinker is chilling because he can't play sports, and the librarian's working. So anything that gets you into a relaxed state of mind. Watching movies. Do you like watching movies?
Yeah, sure.
Great. Watching movies is a great way to do it. Anything gets you to relax. Now, if you're watching movies and you're thinking about a problem, that's not it, right? So we must put things on paper. We must capture everything on paper or your phone, whatever. And this is sort of David Allen's, first step, capture. He's got capture, clarify, organize, reflect, and engage. We got to put everything on paper. When this industry, when the U.S. was built by great titans like W. Clement Stone or Carnegie, Rockefeller, I don't care who you name, there were no digital contraptions, no computers, no iPhones. It was all on paper. But guess what they all had to do? They had to capture things on paper. Getting things out of your mind onto paper or onto your computer is step number 1. And then go do things that give you happy. Hence, schedule 150 days off a year. Every time we pick up a client, we have 2 phases. Phase 1 is double income, double time off, right? They pay $150,000 up front for that or $1 million for lifetime. That's what we charge. Phase 2 is where we teach them how to become investors, not just in real estate, but in other aspects as well. Businesses primarily, which I love. And so, but you can't get there unless you've done phase 1 because you will not understand the key metrics and the principles, whatever have you, to grow businesses with very little effort on your part unless you understand phase 1. The first thing we do on phase 1, day 1, we got to schedule 150 days off. And then we figure out what do you love to do that you're either not doing anymore or that you want to do more of. Rock climbing, wind sailing, hiking, I don't care. Watching TV, reading books, I don't care. And then we have you take your work week and we go, okay, you're not going to work Saturday and Sunday or Friday, just Monday through Thursday and no more than 5 hours a day, or 4 if you can do it, 5 hours a day. Now we define work. Thinking is not work. Planning is not work. Being in front of the prospect or being on the computer or on the phone, that's work. So the time that you're not doing stuff, you can be thinking about stuff. And then you start to come up with these great ideas, and you got to capture all of that. Because what do we do with it? We can't just chill it. So it's sort of a short answer to a more complicated solution, because everybody's a little bit different. I got a guy who loves to go hunting. So I'm like, well, what can you hunt this week? Right? Let's go hunting. Go, 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 go. The more he hunts, the more money he makes. When he first hired me 3 years ago, this guy, big real estate guy, $1 billion net worth, he said, I'm the only guy you'll meet that the less I do, the more I make. And I was like, no, you haven't met me. The less I do, the more I make too. But what he meant by that was that his mouth got him into trouble, right? He had such big residual income from his real estate, right? So big that if he didn't spend it, he just makes more money. So I kept saying, well, okay, good. Let's not spend it, dum-dum. And so I kept pushing him to go do stuff. Instead, he bought a $20 million ranch in Montana, 3 of them now. But hey, look, it's what he loves, right? And better than putting it in something that's not going to give him a return, because it's real estate. It's not going to go anywhere. It's appreciating, right? And so anyway, so it's about asking better questions. And, how do we ask better questions? I think it comes down to why, what, and how. What do you really want? Why do you want it? It's the most powerful question. And then how do you get it? Steve Snyder was one of the world's fastest readers. A good friend of mine said there are only 2 problems in life: not knowing what you want, or knowing what you want and not knowing how to get it. So make it up and make it happen. And guess what? It's not as easy as people think. The reason why you struggle on your vacations is because you don't know what you want, and you don't know why you don't want that or why you do want it. If I took my kids, God forbid, I kidnapped them, and I said, if you don't make $1 million in the next 60 days, I'm going to kill them. And you believed me, would you make $1 million?
Yeah.
Okay, well, why don't you do it now?
I guess the urgency is not there.
The why isn't there. I mean, we're human beings, right? The why isn't there, If the why, Jim Rohn, one of my mentors and dear friends, God bless him, said if the why is strong enough, the how becomes easy. And he's right. He's right. And the caveat to that, Jennings, is that not everybody wants to be wealthy. Some people just want to be okay comfortably, and there's nothing wrong with that.
There's a trade-off. At least maybe you don't agree with this, but I believe that there is a trade-off, because to make money, there's typically risk incurred, there's energy expended, there's focus and attention and time, and we only have so much. And so to get to like, hey, I want to have $100 million, or I want to be a billionaire. Okay, well, do you understand what that's going to take? No, you don't. But I mean, are you willing to make those sacrifices? Are you willing to do that? Or would you disagree with that?
So I would pose the question differently. And I would ask you, what's your ideal life? What's the dolce vita, right? The sweet life. What is it for you? Forget about the money. What does it mean for you? So, I've had my house is pretty big, but I've had, big house and the private plane and the vacation homes, I still do, but I've had, I've lived a more opulent life because I thought that's what I wanted, but that's not what I wanted, right? I wanted freedom. And so, sacrifices are only made if you decide to do something you don't want to do. That's a sacrifice. So I wouldn't ask, do you want to be a billionaire or do you want to make $100 million? Elon Musk doesn't ask that. Elon Musk does what he thinks he should be doing. Space and cars, right, is what he talks about. And he bought Twitter. Of course, he's going to make it financially successful because he's not stupid, but he bought it because he had a mission behind it. So what drives people most, and usually not the money, it's what they think the money's going to give them. And so I don't need to be a billionaire to achieve what I want. And, I honestly have no desire to change that. But I do want to play the game and succeed and have fun. So I'm always playing the game. I'm always keeping score because I want to see, what can I do? How much more can I do? One of my mentors, he was 26 years old, illiterate bricklayer named Peter Daniels. And he gave his life to Christ. And he wrote down right then and there, how much can one human being give away in his lifetime? He went into business 3 times, failed, paid it all back, finally got to age 40 into real estate, and then blew up and built most of Australia and Singapore and all kinds of stuff. He's now 90 years old. Got Parkinson's, unfortunately. And his whole thing was, how much money can I give away? That's what drove him. It wasn't about how much money he made and, who knows how many billions of dollars he created. That's what drove him. What drives me is having a remarkable life, creating, Bill Bailey said, life is nothing more than a collection of experiences, their intensity, and their frequencies. I'm 53. My birthday is December 26th. If I live to be 100, God willing, or more, I only have 47 more summers, 47 more Christmases, 47 more Easters, right? Not a limited amount, just 47. It's not a lot, is it? So what do I want to do with those things? Well, to me, it's creating that experience of life, creating those moments that go, that was awesome. And so that's what drives me. That's what I wish drove everybody else. So you have to find out what drives you. Is it, the fact that your parents thought you'd never make it to anything? Is it the fact that your wife wants to travel the world and you can't afford that yet? There's something that drives you. That's the part that we have to connect to. It isn't the money. It's what do we really want? Because money is just, means of exchange of value, right? We took, in 2019, we took a trip around the 30 days in Europe, 30 days in the US. It cost me $250,000. Took everybody, meaning the wife and the 3 kids. Didn't miss the car, didn't miss the dog, didn't miss the house, didn't miss the business. Did no business. I only used my phone for Yelp and Google Maps. Didn't talk to anybody. Could care less if my whole company blew up and nothing. It just didn't care. And you know what I found out? I was the happiest I'd ever been. And I didn't miss anybody or anything. I just didn't care. Now I have money, so I can do whatever I want. But I came back going, I would have kept doing that for the rest of my life, except, my kids have to get married, have kids, have to have their own life, right? I can't drag them around to their 50s and 60s. But I thought, wow, isn't that interesting? Well, why can't it be like that all the time? And I try to live my life that way. I do business, I coach clients. Yeah, for sure. We have 100% success rate because I'm probably the best in the world at what I do. But what drives me is living a remarkable life. How I get there is not as important to me as getting there or, traversing, meaning going through that journey, if you would. So I don't think what you connect with when you're in vacation is you're just lacking sense of purpose. Why? Because how long have you been in real estate?
About 9 years.
What got you in it?
I was very unhappy as a contractor. I saw it as a super cyclical business. I was just input equals output. And the way I was running the business, I had to work harder. I had to take on more clients. I had to do more jobs. And I saw real estate as a way to get freedom, hey, I can buy this trailer and I can $500 a month. And that's $500 less than I had to make in the construction company. And I kept doing that until I realized this is going to take me forever. And so I scaled into multifamily and then, closed some small multifamily, there's some mid-sized multifamily, some larger multifamily. And then, that grew into education and coaching and helping other people transition out of single family into bigger deals. And I get a lot of satisfaction out of that. I love seeing people change their life.
When did you achieve your freedom? How many years since you started did you say, I'm now, I've got enough to pay my bills?
I would say about 3 years ago. Okay.
And that's when it stopped being fun for you. That's when your purpose was checked. And now you're like, oh, why am I doing this? I don't know. So, human beings live on saga. Do you remember the Saving Private Ryan, the movie, right? The saga is we got to go save Private Ryan. That's what drove them, right? How about Bill Wallace, Mel Gibson, freedom? Remember that? With the
Braveheart.
Painted face. Yep. Thank you, Braveheart, right? That's the saga. Steve Jobs, Think Different. Amazon, the A to Z store. Walmart, everyday low prices. We have sagas. Human beings are the only beings on this planet that if you offer a book or a banana, we'll say, well, how good is the book? Right? Every other animal will take the banana. So your saga was freedom, right? Bill Wallace, Braveheart. And you get that, and now the saga dies. And so when the saga dies, you need drama in your life, so you'll make up other stuff. Oh, this and that. You blinded yourself for the purpose, or what Napoleon Hill would call definiteness of purpose. And so your saga dies. So somewhere inside Jennings is another saga, right? Whatever that may be. And then we have to reconnect with that saga, ensure it is a true saga, and that will drive you, because happiness comes from not the achievement, but the overcoming, right? The achievement is momentary, yay! But the overcoming, ups and downs, really is what makes us happy. And happiness doesn't always mean joy, right? I lift, I do push-ups, pull-ups, whatever every day. I freaking hate it, right? But I like how I feel after the fact, right? I hate it, but I'm a type 1 diabetic, and so I eat a special high protein, low carb, low fat diet. I look great, super healthy. A1C 4.6, but yeah, I want pizza too. I don't eat it. You know what I'm saying? Like, So, but I'm happy. And life is sort of like that in our real estate deals, in our life. But you need something that drives you. People who live the longest, it's not because they're carnivore or vegetarian or pescatarian or whatever. It's because they have a purpose. They have a driving, something that drives them. And it could be just as silly as sitting on the porch smoking a cigar. It doesn't have to be a big drive. It just has to be a purpose. W. Clement Stone, who smoked cigars, drank champagne, ate meat every day of his life, lived to be 100 years old. And he was Mr. PMA. Smoked 8, 9, 10 cigars a day. George Burns smoked cigars, lived to be 100 years old. Bob Hope lived to be 100 years old. So it doesn't mean cigar smoking is healthy. It just means that, you can do stupid things and still live a long, healthy, happy life. Purpose drives us. We are driven. People, they retire, they die. No more purpose. Yeah. So if your purpose is busy, 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 or if you have no purpose, you're going to make it, let me just be busy making, getting involved in purposes or lack little purposes. No bueno.
Yeah, no, I you're bang on. I feel like that's something that God has been revealing to me this year over the last 6-8 months. Just a transition of, okay, you did this. What's next? What do I have for you, right? What's something bigger than, I need to make $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a month in passive income? Like, what's bigger than that, right? I can afford my house payment. I can afford my bills. So, and we all have stresses and things that go. I'm not saying my life is perfect, but it's just like there's something there that I am definitely open to and listening for. I think there's a reason why you're on this podcast today. I appreciate that. Appreciate the conversation.
My pleasure. And I think if you ask your subconscious, AKA librarian, hey, what really is going to drive me for the next 10 years? What purpose would I really just be juiced about that would make me a better father, a better husband, a better friend, a better disciple of Christ, a better real estate investor, a better whatever? What would that be? And then just let the answer come naturally and then go swim in the pool. I don't know if you have a pool or not, or take a vacation, go for a walk, and just ignore it. Richard Koch, the 80-20 principle, he's a billionaire 2 times over. He'll sit by his koi pond, put his feet in his koi pond, and just, every day, just hang out there until the answer shows up. You know what I mean? And he takes a pen and paper, sometimes just sits there for an hour and says, well, got nothing, and goes back into his house. You got to ask the question, how do I become a better XY? What's my purpose? What will drive me the next decade? And then, forget it. Don't force it. You cannot be successful playing sports if you're tense and tight. If you're sucking up upholstery, right? You just, it's not going to work for you in white knuckling it. You got to relax, man. And this is where, getting things done by David Allen's, stress-free productivity is so key for me, right? For me, it gives me the ability to be present. And, I ended up 3 years ago, I was April 13, 2020. I ended up being rushed to the ICU because I had gone into organ failure. I had no idea I was type 1 diabetic. I got diagnosed at age 50. And so I came out going, it was a big whirlwind. Like, I've been in an accident. Like, what happened? I immediately started dumping my mind. I put everything into projects, next actions, read the books of the whole thing. I felt in total control of it. And it just, it's a crisis, right? I could have died. And, and not to spin out about it. It's like, okay, let me get out of my head onto paper, as Jim Rohn would say. And then, let me clarify, organize. And, and I figured it out, read the book, met the mentor, the whole thing. And I love my life. I eat great, healthy, happy food. I'm super fit, super healthy. No stress because I didn't let it get me, right? The interest rates went up and I said, okay, great. How do we adjust for that? My 21-year-old son bought a $1 million building in Pennsylvania. Not with my money, by the way. He got himself the money, whatever have you. He makes $1,200-$1,300 a month net income. And interest rates went up. He bought it before they had gone up. And then he goes, oh, I can't do that. I said, no, baby. Of course you can. Now, the question is, what do we pivot to that allows us to maximize the current environment, right? And so, anyway, I know we're over the time.
Yeah, we should probably leave it there because, people got a limited attention span. But Marx, this has been amazing. I really, really appreciate you coming on, enlightening. You're helping me personally, so I know you're helping the audience out there for sure. How can people get in touch with you? How can they follow you and kind of learn more from your wisdom?
Well, we're about to put a website that's callmarx.com, CALMARX.com. They can reach me there. I don't really have much of a social media presence. I have Marx AR, I think it's Twitter, and Marx AR, Instagram. I'm not really a big social media fan, but they can email me.
I'm going to remember that, karlmarx.com. I mean, is that on purpose?
No, it's call, CALL.
Oh, call. Okay.
Marx. Right? Karl Marx might be better, actually. No, but but they can email me at marx@callmarx.com, CALMARX.com.
Gotcha.
If they want, they can email me, and I'm happy to chat with anybody about anything.
Yeah. So if you're a performer, business owner, whatever, looking for something I need mentoring, I need coaching, I need to double my money, I need to double my time off. This is intriguing to me, and I'm looking to do something different. Connect with Marx. Give him a call, see what's going on, shoot him an email, and connect. But Marx, thank you very much for being on the show today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you. Thanks for having me, Jennings. I appreciate it.
All right, guys. Well, have a great week, and make sure you take some time. And I'm going to, not use my tagline here of unlock your life, but take some time this week to access that librarian. Ask the librarian, hey, you got to solve this problem for me. So, all right, guys, we'll leave it there. Thank you, Carl. Thank you, Marx.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty funny when you said thank you, Carl. Like, all right, I guess we're the communist, anti-communist.
All right, guys. See you next time.
This is thepodcastfactory.com.